All right, today's lesson 7, conditionals practice. This time we're going to actually get some more experience working with the code that is on code.org and manipulating some things and adding some things. So I hope that you will feel a lot more confident about Boolean expressions after this lesson. So go ahead and navigate to Bubble 2, first of all, on code.org, Lesson 7, Unit 4. And let's look at what this first one asks us to do. We are to read the code and predict what will appear in the console. Then run the code and watch how each question is answered. So you can look down here and see that these are all console log statements. Each one of them is a question. And then the subsequent line is a conditional statement, a Boolean expression in a very, very simple form. And so we're going to predict what that's going to look like first, just in your brain. And then you're going to run the code to see what actually happens. Then add code to answer the last two questions. You'll need to create a Boolean expression for each one. So what you've got here, when you run it, you'll see that your console log pops up, and you can, of course, speed that up or slow it down to be able to use the code and see what it's doing. And you can see that it's answering the statement with just a simple true or false. It's answering the question with a true or false. And so you need to add to these bottom two, you need to add a console log statement like this with that Boolean expression and that conditional statement. It needs one of your conditional operators, comparison operators. So greater than, less than, equal to, not, things like that. I'm going to let you do that on your own. I think that that one is pretty simple. Mostly you're just going to have to revert back to math class and word problems whenever you have to take a sentence and convert it to, the number math problem. So if you want to make sure that you've done it right at the end, I would suggest putting in or doing the problem yourself in your brain and making sure that the number that you know is the answer also shows up on the console log. And if not, just rethink the logic on that one. Go ahead and pause this video whenever you need to have more time to complete something. I'm going to keep rolling so that we'll get through all of the bubbles, and I can give you any tips that I have found while doing it myself. Bubble 3, you're going to, again, read the code and predict how questions 1 or 2 will be answered. So there's question 1 down here. Is score plus lives less than 13? And here's your variables that give you the current value for score and lives, and it's not changed before the question is asked. Then you have your Boolean expression that is comparing score plus lives with 13. And, oops, did I put something in there? Nope, that's okay. And so you're going to see what's going to show up in the console log, and was it what you thought? Hopefully it was. Then you're going to add code to questions 3 and question 4. Don't forget to use console log statements. That's where we want these answers to show up. And then you've got so that's under variables, console log down here, and your math operators are all right there. I think you guys can do that one on your own as well, but anytime you have problems, you feel free to email me or set up a Zoom meeting with me so we can talk this out, and I want to make sure that you understand every single bubble before you move on. Bubble 4, read the code for questions 1 through 3 and predict the answers. So you can see you've got some variables here: fruit servings, veg servings, grain servings, and they have all been given a current value. And then we've got questions like, am I eating more than 3 fruit servings and more than 5, I'm assuming that says veggie servings, And so then you've got your Boolean expression. I'm comparing, am I eating more than 3 fruit and more than 5 veggies? And then in your console log would give you the either true or false Boolean value of that statement. Run the code to check your predictions, and then add code to answer questions 4 and 5. So we're getting just a little bit more complicated with each bubble. That's why it's so important to make sure that every bubble makes sense to you. Do it again, start from scratch, go over here to the version history and say start over, just to make sure that you actually know what's going on. It's very important that you know what's going on at these beginning stages of coding. Otherwise, we are just going to keep getting more complicated and you're going to be lost, and you don't want that. Note that it says you will need to write Boolean expressions that use the logical operators of and, or not. So all the current examples have those on there. When you are doing that, you're just going to start with your console log statement, and then you can add in your math. So if you want it to be an and, you plug that in, and then you can say, I want this equal to this and this greater than this, and you can just pop them over there. It's actually a lot easier to do all of that with block text or block code instead of text, especially now while you're learning. Moving on to bubble 5. Now we're going to get a little bit more like the examples we've had in the past where we're evaluating someone's age. Similar to that, we are evaluating how many clicks someone is using to when they're clicking on the star. So we want to build an app, very, very simple. Don't get scared. Very, very simple things that they're asking us to do. And all of it is right here in the instructions, exactly what they want you to do. I want you to add clicks to the watch window in the bottom right. You know that you can do that right here and just put clicks. And I'm going to watch the value of clicks as it moves. Add a Boolean expression to the if statement that checks if there are 5 or more clicks. So we see that here's our on event. When the star is clicked, we're going to add 1 to our value of clicks, our variable. We're going to show the current value of clicks over here. And then here we're going to add the Boolean expression. Now, this is in text, and we're not used to that so far. So here in the parentheses is where you will add your Boolean expression. You can pull over blocks if you want to. It says we're looking if it is more than 5. So we could go to our math and we could look for the greater than sign, and we can actually drop it in there. Not really valuable exactly to do that at this point, but it can be done. And so we could say if clicks is greater than 5. And now the error goes away. So the error was there because our if statement didn't have anything in it. So at this point, if you're more comfortable, you can switch back to block mode and continue the rest of it. So again, we want the star to turn red if there are more than 5. Oh, sorry, it says 5 or more. I missed that. So it's less than or greater than or equal to. There we go. Greater than or equal to 5. So when it gets to 5 and every other one will need to go to red. So this looks correct right there. And then I can run it, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is where it should change to red, and then it should continue to be red after that. All right, bubble 6. Add code to this project so that the star changes color based on the number of clicks. We're getting just a little bit more complicated with this. Now we're not just changing from black to red once. You can see here in this table that we're going from black to red to orange. So we're going to have to add if else if statement. So run the code to see how it works. Change the if statement into an if else statement by clicking the plus. Add code in the else section to make the star orange. So right now you've got just an if statement. If the clicks are less than 5, we stay red, or we are red. I guess it's black at the beginning. Let's see what it does. 0. As soon as we get to 1, it changes to red, and then it changes. Then what? It just stays red. So what we need to do instead is we need to check for and think about our example of the seniors and the children and then the adults. We want to know, like, we got to be specific. We got to be specific to single out one small group of those people first. So in this case, that's orange. We only want it to be orange if we have more or 5 or more. So that might be the thing that you add first, and then you can click on the plus statement or the plus sign to add your next thing. And then the last else might be that, well, you really don't need it on this one because it's only if it's 0 that's black, and that's where you start. In this game, you're not going up points and down points. So once we've clicked on it once, we never need it to be black again. We will only need red or orange. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to do that one on your own. But again, if you have any problems at all, feel free to email me. I'm available. Moving to bubble 7. All right, run this program to see how it works. Add code to the if else if command to make the star change to the colors indicated in the table below. Guys, look at this. Look how many different ones you're going to have to add. And if you watch this little tip right here, we got what? Keep going. Keep going. Yes, there's going to be a lot of them. You're going to have one for every single color that's listed on there, except black. You're not going to need black because that's the default and you only need it when you haven't clicked anything. So it doesn't really belong in the on event. But remember our top to bottom. We want to start with what's the least common thing that's going to happen. That's us getting 30 or more clicks. That's going to take a long time to get to, and that's what you want on the top. And then you can just go backwards from there and add in all of your code. Moving to bubble 8. All right, debug this code. I think I switched back. I got to make sure that I'm starting with the original code here. Sorry about that. So debug this code. The star never turns orange. So I would want to look at the app code a little bit and see what's it supposed to do. Where's orange? Here's orange. It is supposed to be orange if the clicks are less than 10. So if I just wanted to look through this and probably something is out of order and I'm just going to need to rearrange it a little bit. So that's a hint for you. You just need to identify the error and fix the code on that bubble. Going to bubble 9. Okay, we're going to get a little bit more mathematical. Not too bad. Stay with me. Some conditional statements can be written as Boolean expressions and vice versa. So here's an example. Here is a conditional statement, y less than 6. We're comparing the two things and hoping to get an end value of either true or false. But if you use a Boolean expression that starts with an if statement, then if it's true, you do one thing, and if it's false, you do another thing. So that's the difference. A conditional statement just compares two things and results in true or false, but an if statement gives you directions whether it's true or whether it's false. So what they've given you so far is the starter code. or kind of the first example. Okay, so we have the variable y is currently set to the value of 8, and then the variable x is going to be a true or false based on the answer to this question. Is 8 less than 6? False. So currently x is false. And then you have the next line is the console log statement that pulls that value of x. And currently that value is false. And then you show the same thing in a Boolean expression. If y is less than 6, is y less than 6? Currently, it is false because 8 is not less than 6. So if y was less than 6, we would say that x is true. But since it is false, we go to the else part and we say that x is false. And then right after that, we want to print in our console log the current value of x, which in this case would also be false. Either way, you're going to get a false result. So what they want you to do is replicate that. You currently have A and B as your examples, and they've given you a conditional statement, and you are just simply repeating what was done up here in the Boolean expression to show not just is A greater than 2, but how can we give the computer instructions for what to print based on whether A is greater than or less than 2. So I think just copying what's up there is all that you really need to do on that one. And then move on to 10. All right, 10, we're going to get a little more useful with a real life example. We're thinking back to our example about can I adopt a cat? We had a flow chart about that, which is over here in the corner. Can I adopt a cat? I can if I have $40 and I'm over 14 years old. So what we are going to do is build our app, and it's already, the design is there for you, but someone would enter their age, enter the amount of money they have, click on can I adopt a cat, and the computer would perform this Boolean calculation, if you will, evaluate those variables against what we've said that must be true. And then it will give the user a result. So be sure to read this carefully, what you need to do. You're going to add code to get the numbers the user inputted for age and money. And we've got some, I think they're UI controls. Yeah, we have get number and get text. And then inside the ID, you can tell them where you're getting that from. So let me give an example here. If I pull over a get text, let's do a little example. So what I want is, we'll do the money first. So I want to compare money to 40. If money equals 40, and age is, what is it supposed to be? Greater than 14. I think I needed another parentheses there. Yes, sometimes it's just extra parentheses. I'm not sure why I started out in text mode here, but I forgot if I had errors already. I think I did have errors already because that was blank. But if you can put something there and then go back to block mode, if you're more comfortable doing that. So if these two are true, but right here it's saying I got to update my variables. That's probably where I should reset the value of my variables to pull in the current user input value for age. So for example, this needs to be on the on event. So I'll pull over, anybody mind if I switch to blocks here? I'm going to pull over, update my variable. I want to update age to get text from this input right here, which is called age number. And then I'm going to update my money variable. And I'm going to pull a get number from money number is what it's called. I can pull some of those out. Okay, so look at this. When I click this button, adopt button, my age is going to have a current value of whatever the user inputted. Money is going to have the current value of whatever the user inputted. And then I can now evaluate those new variables to my conditions. Money needs to be equal to 40 and age needs to be greater than 14. Everything looked good. And then apparently I have some elements called yes cat and no cat. We'll see how that works. All right. Age, I'm going to say that I'm going to put 15. I'm going to put something that I know is true first. Can I adopt a cat? Oh, yes. And then I'm going to reset and I'm going to try something that I know is going to evaluate to false. So 14 and 40. No. Okay, it works. So we're good. That wasn't so hard. And then the next one, you know what? I don't know if it said this whenever I pulled it up this time, but I think it did. It will for you. It'll pop up a little thing that says, this icon means that this level is part of a larger project. Changes will be saved across these levels. This is why it's really, really important that you don't skip any levels or you don't try to move forward without really accurately figuring something out first. Because now that I've written this in there, whenever I move forward to my next bubble, it's going to take all of my code with me. And now it's going to ask me to add things to it or change things about it. And so if I just skip to bubble 11, I'm going to miss out on some things or I'm going to have to redo some code. So you definitely don't want that to happen. Now on bubble 11, you're going to add these two changes to the way that the kitten adoption app works, $40 or more. So we want to know if we have $40, but it's not just $40. It could be $41. It could be $80, but we want to make sure we have at least $40. So you're going to update the expression so that will evaluate to true if you have 40 or more. And then Teenager Day. It's Teenager Day at the animal shelter and only teenagers are allowed to adopt cats. So now we have to update our code to prevent anyone under the age of 13 or over the age of 19. So anybody 12 and under, anybody 20 or older, those are not teenagers, so they cannot adopt a cat. I'm going to tell you that probably you're going to need some if statements, possibly, because we've got, I guess it's not going to be that complicated, but currently it's just an if statement and we're going to need to separate it out because it's going to get really complicated. And then what else? It does say you can write it under a single Boolean expression, but you don't have to. I guess the difference would be if you were having more than two outcomes. So it's either yes, you can adopt a cat or no, you can't adopt a cat. those are our only two outcomes. And if that's all it is, then a single if statement works, because it's either if it is, and then if it's true, you enter the code, and if it's false, you just skip to outside of the if statement. So unless we had multiple things like, you can either adopt a cat now, or you can adopt a cat on Wednesday, or you can adopt a cat never. That situation is where we need the if, else, if statements. So once you've added those things in there, you can use some of these to test it out and just make sure that you're getting the right output. So you put in age of 18 and money of 40 and make sure that you're getting the correct output on all of these. And if you've done that, then you've done it correctly. You do not need to move forward to number 12 or number 13. Check your understanding today. But make sure that you look at Google Classroom for any additional questions or assignments.